Kia ora and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Harry.
And I'm Matthew, and this behind us is the new Mini Aceman SE.
When you want a Mini that is not too mini, but still very much a Mini. Come in, let's take a look at this.
The Aceman is an all-new Mini. So for the first time in a long time, we have a brand new nameplate from Mini, and it is this, the Aceman. It's meant to sit in between the Cooper and the Countryman as the brand's compact crossover, and unlike the other two cars, this is developed entirely as an EV and only available as an EV. So there is no petrol version, there's no hybrid version, it's just this, the EV, of which you have several different trims. And the one here we have in particular is the middle of the road, the SE. There is a performance JCW one above it as well, which we'll review at some point in the future. What sets the Aceman apart is a few things. So firstly, in the looks, the headlights slightly different to the very round shape of the Cooper and slightly more squarish look of the Countryman, as you can see there. And then of course this face and grille, identifying it as part of that Mini electric family. Note also that green S that denotes there is an electric powertrain underneath, but we'll get to that in a moment. Size wise, it is very urban friendly. So it comes in just under 4.1 meters long. It's just shy of 2 meters long, so 1.99 roughly. And then height wise, it's somewhere around 1.5 meters tall. So it's very much crossover dimensionally. And as you can see from the ride height as well, it's the perfect urban warrior for all of those speed humps and curbs and what have you that a city environment might challenge a car like this. Around the side, it has got, well, it oozes of style because it is a modern Mini. So you've got a few different wheel options. Here we have the larger ones, which are the 19s. As you keep walking down the side, the shapes of everything, the door mirrors, the little badges, the door handles, note the little Mini tags on the bottom as well. Everything is quirky. Everything is Mini as we've come to expect from the brand, just like the rear. Let's take a look at that. Now, again, at the back, the Aceman is undeniably Mini, but with its own sort of twist. So you can see the way the rear looks. It's obviously got Aceman spelled out there, which does actually look quite cool. I do like the almost gold kind of coloring that it has to it. And the coolest thing about it is these taillights rather, and they give you this sort of really nice welcome sequence. This tailgate, now there's nothing unique about it. It is just a tailgate, but you notice when I swipe my foot down or even push the button, it doesn't actually do anything, because for the first time in a long time, we have a completely physical tailgate. Look, there's no button, it's not electronic, it's not sensor operated, it is just, dare I say, old school. Boot-wise though, you have 300 liters in there, which is a decent size, and the floor has a few different height options in terms of how much storage you want to use. And the fact is that you have underfloor storage there for your charging cables and things like that. So they have thought about all the practicalities and bits and pieces there. Under the bonnet of the Aceman, as you can see, there is a undeniably electric setup with the motor, the big bright orange cables, and lots of signs saying Achtung and not to put your hand on things. But the way this is set up, Harry and I can't help but feel that BMW, Mini, have done some forward thinking to prepare for the fact that what if they need to ever put a petrol or a hybrid powertrain in the front of this car, that actually becomes achievable in future. Anyway, that's like saying if my grandma had wheels, she would have been a bike. That aside, with the Aceman and its obviously fully electric configuration, what Mini have done is put a 49.5 kilowatt hour battery in the middle, and from its motor they can extract 160 kilowatts of power, 330 newton meters of torque, and that gives you actually a very respectable 0 to 100 time of 7.1 seconds. So it stays true to its S badging, in fact, and it's very much hot hatch territory when it comes to those power and torque figures, as well as the acceleration. Many claim that the WLTP range looks something like 406 kilometers, but again, that depends on your style of driving and obviously which mode you're using. That all aside, it does make the car go quite well, and certainly stays true to that go-kart kind of ethos that Mini have employed in developing their range of cars, and especially their range of electric cars. Speaking of ranges, well, Harry's inside and he'll take you through all the different customization options and things available in there.
Yeah, Matt is absolutely right. Mini has always been about customization, and the Aceman is no different. From the beginning, they always do this sort of a mini treatment to the interior, which is always a very welcome kind of thing. In this specific Aceman that we have today, we start with this dark blue leather, or vegan leather, should I say, to the seats that have this interesting mix between the blue stitching into the piping that goes on the outside. It mixes this modern and vintage thing that is something that Mini has always been doing quite well at that even. As you look at the dashboard, you then see this cloth insert that goes from end to end and of course goes into the doors as well. But one interesting thing that it creates is that this is probably the only soft touch surface across the whole dashboard in dark cards, because it really gets quite scratchy as you go from the top all the way down to the bottom. But of course, the cloth adds quite a bit of character to the interior, and you can choose from different options that will make it a little bit more funky, a little bit more mini. And the same thing then happens, of course, with the central display that we will cover in a bit, and a few other interesting choices that they did, such as these storage solutions. You might have seen our Countryman review earlier where we raved about the good implementation of the storage solutions in that car. Here, it is probably a little bit less inspired. Yes, you get a wireless charging pad for your phone right there, but it is open on the sides and it can fly around as you go driving around the corners with this car. You then have two cup holders in here, but in terms of actual cubbies and stuff for you to put stuff in, I don't think that it is all that good. All in all, it is definitely more about being mini, not that practical, but definitely heaps of fun with a lot of technology going for it as well. So come and join me as we cover the big round elephant in the room. And then, in keeping it in very mini fashion, of course, we do have this circular display here at the middle of the dashboard, which now has been upgraded to be an AMOLED unit, meaning that the blacks are very black, bringing the contrast up, so that the brightness doesn't annoy you when driving at night. This being the home view in here, you can flick between the panes to access different apps. The first one being the integration with your phone, which of course brings Apple CarPlay and Android Auto being wireless. And then what it does is that because the display is round, if you open CarPlay, this is how it will look like. It will try to make most of the space while still showing all the vital information on the sides. So you still get your power, gear, speed, and state of charge available at all times for you to see. And then the same thing applies to climate, because you have those two things here on the sides, which will allow you to choose the specific configurations for the passenger seat and also for the driver, including the heated seats and the steering wheel as well. And then if you go back to the home and keep going to the other apps that you get to the side, of course, we get Spike, which is the friendly new voice assistant that Mini have introduced, and a few other things, including configurations for your drive. So as you can see here, a little bit more about the efficiency and the figures that we have achieved while driving the Mini, and all the things in here sort of reflect the situation of the car outside, which is of course very cool. From the home menu, you can also pull up an app drawer, and here you will see how much stuff there is for you to do and to customize with your Mini. One of the things that is, of course, a little bit of a party trick, and one thing that is very famous from this new generation of the Minis, has to do with the interior camera, which means that if you go through a few specific things of the permissions and how your data is going to be used, you can bring the camera into the inside, and of course even go ahead and take a photo that you can send to your phone, trying to keep with the younglings, or whatever word people use nowadays. And again, speaking of the younglings, of course, Mini could not do with just drive modes. What they have done in here is that they have called those experiences. And you go through them by using this toggle here down below, and then the car will start in one specific experience, and then you can toggle between other ones. This is how go-kart looks, which would be the equivalent to a sport mode. You get a G meter, and then you can see how much torque and power you are making at all times. By going down, you can go into core, which is usually how the car starts like. It would be your normal mode, but you also get access to green. Think of this as your eco mode, and then you can keep going to personal, timeless, trail, and a few others, because of course there is plenty of customization in all of these modes. Each one of them will have an experience view, which in this case is this one here, but you can always touch the speedometer and bring in a specific speedometer for each of these modes. You will get the power, the battery state of charge, and your speed in the middle. Again, another thing that has been now a staple of the new Mini cars has to do with this steering wheel. It looks like nothing else out there in the market. It is really chunky and thick on the places where you grip. The third spoke is made out of cloth. Again, very modern and very different from what you see out there. But the implementation of the spokes, or the information that you see in each one of them, is very consistent and really easy to use. On the left, you do everything to do with your adaptive cruise control in your assisted driving modes. You can toggle on or off the assisted driving or the limiter, and then toggle the speed using the plus and the minus. On the other side, it's everything to do with media. So you get access to using Spike or your own voice control. You get a favorites button that can access specific features about the car, and then the media controls here up the top. These two things here are LEDs that will replicate some of the information that shows on the display, and also what is projected here in front of you in the heads-up display. Because of course, you don't want to be looking at this slanted view here all the time while you're driving. Mini have been smart and put some of the vital information right in front of you with this super helpful heads-up display. All right, that's it. So Minis have been known not only for the funkiness that they have on the inside and the outside, but also about how much fun they are to drive. So, of course, I was smart enough to leave this in go-kart mode. I think it's about time that I jump on the passenger seat and let Matt have a go at it.
So, the Mini Aceman SE. This is, unlike the Countryman and the Cooper, as I said before, an all-new car in the Mini range, somewhere where they're not quite so unfamiliar, because the new Countryman has grown up a bit, and so Mini needed another crossover to slot in between the two cars, and that's where the Aceman comes in. And it does do a really good job of fitting into the current Mini styling, for sure. It has the same sort of quirky outlook, the de-chromed badging, the funky design, all of that stuff, yet still being cute in a way, but also a bit more grown up with those athletic shoulders and stuff like that. So it just goes to show how the Mini brand itself is growing up and is offering cars for all sorts of people.
Unapologetically a Mini, right?
Yep.
For everything that comes, the good and the bad about being a Mini, it makes no excuses. And to be honest, I quite like it because of that reason. And it's not trying to be something that it isn't, and it brings everything that you would say, okay, that's a Mini thing for sure. I don't think we mentioned this before, but the two of us have a lot of experience with the recent products from Mini. We have driven the Countryman for quite a lot. We were the launch of the new Cooper. And if we are drawing comparisons, it's very clear that the Aceman drives much more like a Cooper than like a Countryman, right? It doesn't have the all-4 all-wheel drive system, and then even though it has 70 kilowatts of power, less than the Countryman, it is much more dynamic. The fact that all the power goes to the front wheels make this big sort of a lunge backwards as you stomp on the throttle, and of course all the sound that comes with it if you are on the right mode. It is just so much fun. I love how this drives.
Its front-wheel driveness means that you do get a little bit of slip when you are planting your foot. It needs to find that traction, and then once it does, it can put down its power and you are underway. But at the same time, the little bit of torque steer as well keeps it exciting. And this is a car that handles really nicely, I have to say. It just feels like it will go around corners as you want it, and then plant your foot for the straight bits. It is quite engaging to drive.
And then as you sort of deplete your range a little bit more than you would want because of all these go-karting, and then if you want to do a little bit more of what it is sort of trying to do as a small family SUV, and we just flick it to green mode, then you can see that it eases on the noise a little bit more, and the throttle response becomes watered down, and then it doesn't do the sounds anymore. And then probably if you are living in this mode a little bit more, you will start to realize how firm of a ride this actually is, right? Of course, it fits the idea of being sporty and being this chuckable small hatchback, but I think that if you don't know what you are walking into, it might grow old. So you definitely have to test drive this, see if it is for you, because at certain points it drives like it has been lowered, and when in fact it hasn't. So definitely a very European, very firm ride.
I think depending on the kind of road surface, this one now is quite smooth, but if you have a more open pore, kind of rougher surface, you definitely start to feel all the bumps and undulations in the road quite a bit. So it is, suspension has been set up to be firmer than what some people might like. So I think that sets it apart in a way, but also reminds you of the quirkiness of the Mini and the fact that this is an S model car. You know, they haven't tried to dull all those things down just to appeal to more buyers. They have tried to stay true in some way to being a sporty car. And then when we get to the JCW, who knows how exciting that'll be. But all the pointers with this S model, I think, say that should be pretty good and a pretty engaging drive.
Yeah.
Right, now we've spoken about plenty of the upsides. What about the downsides? That all that stuff that Harry just spoke about with the technology does have its downsides. And I, for one, especially when you first get into the car, feel like it's a bit complicated and a little bit busy as well. But it's one of those things where I got the chance to live with a Countryman for over a week on a very long drive recently. And you get used to it over time. You get used to where things like the heads-up display live and the audio settings and all of those things. So it does take time, but it's one of those where once you live with the car, you get familiar with the technical nuances for sure. I think the other thing that you'll discover when you start to live with the car is the storage spaces, and I think there is a real shortfall over there in terms of what the average car buyer might need, because the door cubbies are quite small, as is the center console. Is not exactly set up to be extremely practical and convenient. So it's just a question of being more so focused on city driving rather than long-term driving and trips.
Agree.
I guess you have the Countryman for that.
Yeah.
Now, Mini claim that it has a 406 kilometer WLTP range. And right now, Harry has used just a touch more than 50%, and we're sitting on something like 177 kilometers of range left. And his trip so far says that he's done 161 kilometers. So my maths is correct. That means in total, he would have only covered 330 k's of range or so on a full charge, which is a little bit short of expectations.
Yeah, it includes a little bit of go-karting, granted, but I never used the air conditioning, never used the heating, so I ate into the range in one ways, but I preserved it in others. So yeah, I don't think that we would be able to get to the claimed range, and it's just something that you will have to see if these figures suit your lifestyle or not.
And despite the fact that for Harry, he has been driving efficiently, it's 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 k's, is not to be sniffed at. It's a pretty good efficiency rating for an EV. So there you have it, the new Mini Aceman SE. It's a completely fresh approach from Mini to sit between the Countryman and the Cooper. It's meant to be urban, it's meant to be funky, it's meant to be fully electric, and it's meant to be Mini.
Okay, I think that it absolutely achieves all those four things Compared to the Countryman, which we had earlier, it is definitely more fun to drive. It might be a little bit less competent in some things that people will be expecting from a family SUV, hence all the comparisons, but it is still very much a Mini, very fun to drive, very nice to be in if you sort of put a few things out of the consideration.
And this is the SE model, remember. There is a hotter one to come, which is the JCW. And if this is anything to go by, that should be quite fun to drive. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. The button will be around somewhere. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.
See ya. The guy on the blue Prius that was driving around us just now, he came onto the ramp with us, is a workmate of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He used to drive an Evo 10. And
Evo 10?
Yeah, and then he changed into the Prius.
Oh my gosh.
And he loves it. He's
He
super
loves
happy.
a Prius.
Yeah.